So welcome to my YouTube channel. That's what we call The Good Life. Today I'm going to be doing a tour of my allotment to show you what's going on at the moment. If you've not already subscribed to my channel, you know what I'm going to say. If you could please do so, because you'll get all the updates, loads of useful inspiration and helpful hints and tips all throughout the year. So starting off at the top of the allotment here, if we look at the rhubarb, the rhubarb's still doing really well. I can still pick that if I want to. In September it might start to flop down, so if you want to pick any, August, might be the month when you start doing it, because towards September it will start to flop down and then you won't be able to pick any. So my pears are not doing too badly. If I'm honest, I don't look like the best crop in the world. I might be relying on my local farm shop. They're a little bit small, if I'm honest, so I don't know what's happened there. I guess we sometimes get years like that, don't we? But whether they're small or whether they're big, they'll still make a lovely crumble or something, won't they? So as we move round, my raspberries have all but finished, but I am still getting a handful off, and even though it's not too many, I'll still pick them off. Even if I only take a few home, it's enough to have with some yoghurt, with my breakfast, or with a pudding. So I still hop round and pick the ones off that I can. So I might as well, as I've seen them now, I might as well just grab those, mightn't I? There we go. They crumble a little bit sometimes towards the end of the year, but they all still taste perfectly good. They're free at the end of the day. Just our hard work and nurturing that's contributing to those. And sometimes, actually, when you think, oh, there aren't that many on there, by the time you finish picking them all, actually, sometimes it seems like quite a lot. So it's always worth checking rather than discarding them. And even if it's just a snack to have up at the allotment, it's better than just leaving them, isn't it? So the blackberries are in full fettle. So loads of lovely juicy blackberries. I'm very fortunate enough to have the thornless ones that grow really nice and big. So these are absolutely gorgeous. And I pick them off when they come off easily. If you pick them off when they're too difficult to pull off, then they're a little bit too sharp. And personally, I like them when they're really nice and ripe. So just take them off when they easily come off in your hand. If they're too hard, if you're going to cook with them, I suppose it doesn't matter too much. But if you want to eat them fresh with your porridge, you want them to be nice and juicy, don't you really? So obviously my gooseberries are finished. My potatoes, I've dug my first row of Charlotte potatoes, and they've been absolutely fantastic. So despite the dry weather at the beginning of the year, and I didn't really water that much, they've done really well. So I leave mine in the ground until about October time. I know some people dig them all up in one go, but I find that works much better as my larder rather than having to take them home and store them. But once it gets to October time, late September, October, you've got to dig them up because of the frost, and lots of the underground worms and what have you will start to nibble at them, and we don't want that. So my beetroots are doing quite well. If I'm honest, I think they're a little bit slow to the party this year, but they are still fine. There's lots of little small ones in there, and that's not such a bad thing, because some odd times they come on too quickly and then it's a rush to eat them and pickle them, otherwise they'll get too big and they could get tough. So in some respects I'd rather them like this, so that I can gradually harvest them as and when I want them. My carrots are under there. As yet, I haven't touched them. I've been leaving them to get as big as possible, so maybe we'll unveil them next time we're up the allotment to see what they're like. So under my netting here, which if I'm honest, I don't need on here anymore. I can take this off actually. I've got some Florence fennel. My marigolds, which are my companion planting, seem to have gone absolutely bonkers. Which they look really lovely. That wasn't really my intention for them to take up quite so much room. So I've got some Florence fennel in there. That's the type that bulbs up with any luck. My pak choi, unfortunately, most of it's bolted, but you never know, I might get one that hasn't. And also my carrots. I planted some carrots in this section, and quite bizarrely, I thought all the seeds had moved to the side because they were only growing on one side, but I've just noticed that some of the other seed, I literally planted them months ago. I can't believe they've suddenly started germinating. And there's a weed. Let's get that out. So over here, I've got my statice flowers, which I absolutely love for cut flowers. And my blueberries are in here somewhere, but because I only put them in here this year, I put a few things out in here to fill it up. I have got some tiny little blueberries there. So I don't think it's going to be the biggest crop this year for blueberries, but hopefully next year. I obviously won't be able to put anything else in here next year. I'll have to leave it just for the blueberries. They seem to be doing okay. I've got some cucumbers up here. So lots of lovely little baby cucumbers coming along. So I'm picking these every few days. These are the little lunchbox ones, which I think I've said before are my personal favourites. I did have a little bit of a look up here this morning, and I thought there was one that was almost big enough to pick. The trouble with these is they can hide. So I've got lots of little ones here, so I'm going to have to keep a really good eye on these. So when they're ready to pick, they don't get too big. But these are really, really yummy. I've got to say I'm eating lots and lots of cucumber at the moment. And as it's so good for me, it's not a bad thing. Yes, you've got another one there, not too long, a couple of days. And that one will probably be ready to harvest as well. I've got my kale underneath here. I keep these quite heavily netted with Enviromesh and the green scaffolding netting because the butterflies are just so sneaky getting in there, and I don't want to have to spray them, and as yet I haven't had to do anything other than just pick it, so it really does work. It seems a little bit over the top, but it does the job. The only thing is I have to keep periodically lifting it up a little bit because the cows are getting so big. So that's doing really well. We move over the leeks again. I don't know whether they're the right size for this time of year or not, but they're getting bigger, and that's the main thing. So I don't know how anyone else's leeks are doing, but they seem to be doing okay. They seem to be thriving. Hopefully they'll start to fill out quite soon. So I've got my onions, which I keep saying I'm going to dig, and the next time you see this video I will have lifted them. I've normally lifted them in July, and it's just been one of those jobs that even I don't always get everything done I intend to get done. So if you're beating yourself up about the fact that you haven't done that job and you haven't done that job, well, yeah, that's what it's like on an allotment, especially in August. There's so much you need to do, and you just have to do what you can when you can. As long as you get plenty of food off your allotment, in my opinion, that's the most important thing. For me, it's all about the eating. So as we move over, I've got some courgettes. All this whole area is a mixture of squashes and courgettes, but on the ends of each side, I've put courgettes. So I've started to mark them up actually, because I've got a friend who's going to be looking after my allotment while I'm away. So to make it easier for her to know the difference between the squashes and the courgettes, I've just stuck a bottle on the end so she can tell. But they've got lovely little courgettes coming on there. Look, that's a Lebanese variety, which is absolutely lovely. And again over here, I've got one almost ready to pick. So I'm saving them for my friend when she comes up. So the reason I'm not harvesting so many things today is I've got a friend coming up tomorrow who's looking after the allotment, and I thought I'd share some of my produce with her so she can pick it fresh for herself. So as we move round, the dahlias are looking really lovely. Unfortunately, they're not the kind of dahlias I normally get. I normally get the ones with the really long stems on them. That being said, some of these actually I could use for cut flowers, so I might take a few before I go. Most of the dahlias I've had in the past have much longer stems. I must admit I'm not a dahlia expert, so if anyone knows how to make the stems get longer, then please let me know. But I have actually got some that I've actually could, possibly, I've just got to be patient and wait, because some of them are actually getting longer stems, so I possibly will be able to take some of those home for some cut flowers over the next few days. And my runner beans, absolutely bountiful amount of bloom, which is absolutely fantastic. And I've got loads of beans coming on this plant. Again, the same thing here. I'm going to be saving these for one of my friends to pick for herself. But yeah, so I'll just pick one off. So I have got some really lovely big ones. So they are, it doesn't get tangled up in me. They are coming on really, really well here. So but it looks like we're going to get, as you can see, look, all the bloom and all the little beans are starting to form. So they are doing absolutely fantastically. So really looking forward to that. Beans are really easy to freeze as well. You really don't need to blanch them. You just chop them, prepare them and put them in the freezer. You really don't need to fanny around with them an awful lot. I find it quite easier just to do that. So we've got some more courgettes here. I always like growing a mixture because it's just nice to grow different colours of things. So I've got a lovely courgette there, which again I'm going to leave on for my friend to collect when she comes up, rather than pick everything all off today. And I've got some yellow ones. Unfortunately the yellow ones don't seem to be doing quite so well, but I've got a few coming on there. So they're coming on really nicely. So they will fill out, I'm sure. And I've got some round ones here, which I think I pulled most of those off the other day. But there are some little ones coming on. If you've got any of this powdery, mildewy leaves, you often get some on it. You need to create a little bit of better airflow. So what I often do is I just come in with a pair of secateurs and I just cut the leaves off from the bottom of the stalk, just to create a little bit more airflow. I'd say it's nothing to worry about. It isn't great for the plant, but it is, you do often just get a little bit every single year. It's caused by a mixture of things with the weather, and also a little bit of overcrowding. So like I say, I shall probably come through with a pair of secateurs and just take off some of the powdery looking leaves, just to create a little bit more air going around the plants. So I've got some chard coming on there and some more lettuce, which is absolutely fantastic. I do intend to put some more lettuce seeds in at some point, because I'm just about to go away. I don't want to put them in and expect someone else to have to look after some seeds, so I shall be doing them when I get back, and probably doing them in my greenhouse as well. So I've got my broccoli in here, and I don't know if any of you remember, but I had an awful lot that bolted, and it was really quite disheartening. And I was seeing a lot of people on a lot of the forums saying, oh, you know, it's bolting, blah blah blah, and I really don't know what anyone else did with their broccoli. But as I know that quite often you get the main head and then you get lots of side shoots, I thought, well, what else am I going to do? I don't want to dig them up and waste them. But actually, the ones that didn't bolt have produced main heads. So there's a lovely one there, which is pretty awesome. And then, I mean, the most amazing thing is all these fantastic side shoots. Now, if I'd have pulled these up, I wouldn't have got any of that, you know. Yes, I could have planted something else in its place, but what would I put in there, you know? And there's quite a lot here, you know, and these are from the ones that bolted. So, and you can obviously eat the leaves as well. There's plenty of broccoli still in here. You have to have a good look around, because it's easy for the little heads to sneak up, and then obviously if they go to seed, then they're no good. So you just have to keep picking them off regularly. But there you go. For broccoli that some people would have just thrown away, personally I don't think that's too shoddy. There's a few meals there for sure. So I'll come back and tidy this up later, because obviously you have to keep things like your brassicas covered, because obviously the birds, the butterflies, the whitefly will damage them. Now, I've got some sweetcorn in here. It looks a little bit barricaded in, and that's because it does. It is. On our allotment, we're never too sure what wild animals attack our sweetcorn. I think if you follow me, there's much debate whether it's foxes, badgers, squirrels, rats. I mean, who knows? All we know is that we lose a lot of our sweetcorn, but we love our sweetcorn too. So we built this little polytunnel out of an old trampoline that a friend gave me because it was broken, and they're doing really well inside. They're not big enough to harvest yet. I've barricaded all around the bottom, and it's very secure on the top. So fingers crossed in a few weeks. And this is really important why you must subscribe. Hopefully we'll be picking some wonderful sweetcorn, because your own sweetcorn is utterly delicious. It's so much sweeter than anything you'll ever buy anywhere else, I promise you. It's absolutely fantastic. And again, I use this netting. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I do have an Amazon allotment shop now. So if you're curious about some of the things that I use, an awful lot of it's on there. So we will put a link in the description, and it will be to my left there if you wish to take a look, but it's up to you. So I only recommend things that I personally use myself, and this netting is absolutely fantastic. It's one of my go-tos, as is the EnviroMesh. So as we head up to the top of the allotment, obviously that's the potatoes we've already talked about. The black currants have already been harvested, and I've made a fantastic jam, and I've got some berries left in the freezer to make a summer pudding. And as we come up to the top here, we've got some apples. We've got my eating apples over there, which aren't ready to pick yet, and I've also got my Bramley apples. Now my Bramley apples have got quite a lot of apples on here, and it's really difficult sometimes to tell when they're ready because they don't go red. But one of the signs you get is that you see them dropping on the floor, and that's a really good sign that you really need to get them off. So many times I miss my Bramley apples and I lose a lot of them because I don't pick them soon enough. But for me, August is always the month for it, and you can tell whether they're ready to harvest because they will come off easily. So you'll have no trouble taking them off. In fact, they both came off together there. You got two joined together. How off? That's one of the wonderful things about having an allotment. Yeah, if they come off easily as you lift them up like that, they're ready. And if you don't take them off now, they're going to drop on the floor and the bugs are going to eat them and they're going to rot. So I'm going to save these for tomorrow, and I'm going to take the rest off when my friend comes up. But if you've got brownie apples, I would definitely be testing them to see whether they're ready to get off, because obviously you can store them. So if you store them in between paper, you know, in some little trays to create air in a cool and dark place, then they'll keep for absolutely ages. Or of course you can cook them up and put them in the freezer. Now I do hope you've enjoyed my tour of the allotment. I'd love to know what everyone else is up to, what are their, you know, what are your wins, what are the things that aren't doing so well, and to know how you guys are getting on.